Now saw Malka on your right with the blue-black prowess. Seth Manfield on your left. He is 5-color. This seems like the kind of deck that Saul would really give the beatdowns to.
And now we'll do, as I typically do with these 5-color decks, a check through the gold cards to see how much power Seth is packing here. An Obzon Charm, an Obzon Guide, an Armament Core, a Bear's Companion, a Savage Knuckleblade, a Snowhorn Rider, 2 Soul Tie Charms, a Soul Tie Soothsayer. So a lot of power and definitely spread across 5 colors.
There's the Cliffs. Manfield's up to 21. Those, of course, of the Swiftwater variety. Malka with no turn 1 or 2 play. You have to imagine it was something to do on turn number 3, as both these players sit here at 9 and 1. A Dismal Backwater is going to put Manfield up to 22. Malka will draw a card. Again, Manfield is a 2-time Grand Prix champion as well. I imagine he'll be headed to Honolulu on Monday or Tuesday to get ready for the Pro Tour.
And somehow, I don't think his reputation has really caught up with his results. He's been a dominant Grand Prix player over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
And not exactly a household name at this point. So I hope people start respecting what he's accomplished on the Grand Prix circuit the last couple of years, because it's been really impressive.
He is known as the man-child. He is quite the Magic player.
Is that just because his last name is Manfield?
Mostly, but it's an easy nickname, but it's a good nickname. 3 mana here for Seth. You can take it or leave it.
The easy nicknames are rarely the good nicknames.
Oh, come on. Seth has a morph, and he'll pass the turn back over to Malka. Malka's got his Wind Scout, which I imagine will be getting in the red zone here shortly.
Yeah, the question is, does he want to play a spell first? But I think he has another Wind Scout in hand, so it wouldn't surprise me if he tries to curve out as much as possible with his prowess creatures, and then have a big turn involving 1 or 2 spells.
Wouldn't surprise me if he has another Wind Scout in hand, given that he has 5 in his deck. That would not be a shock to the system at all. There is a second Wind Scout. So Malka with 2 2-1 flyers out there. Manfield's going to untap. He will draw against that. This 5-color. Take a look at the non-basic lands in his deck. He has a Dismal Backwater, which is in play, of course, a Mystic Monastery, 2 copies of Rugged Highlands, 3 Swiftwater Cliffs. That's the blue-red one. And then a single Thornwood Falls. You throw in 4 forests, 2 plains, and 4 swamps. He can catch just about anything as he attacks with his morph.
And Malka gesturing to him, no blocks, come get it.
There is the Thornwood Falls. So Manfield's going to go up a little bit higher. Does have green mana now as he works his way towards all 5 colors.
Easy to lose track of this, but Seth has gained 3 life essentially for free. Saul with a pretty good curve thus far, and Seth's still at 21 somehow.
Seth with another morph. Malka will untap his lands. Time for him to draw a card. You know, the big question is when is the big turn going to happen? You know, it feels like it's coming soon, where he plays a couple spells in the same turn.
Well, I think that Saul has just drawn a 3rd copy of the Wind Scout. So if that turn was supposed to be now, I think he may hold off for 1 more turn because the price has gotten even higher with a 3rd prowess creature.
So he's going to play a Debilitating Injury on the new morph. Of course, that will trigger the Wind Scout's prowess. Prowess says that whenever you play a non-creature spell. So those will be 3 power attackers, so long as he did remember the trigger, of course. Assuming that he did, Manfield's going to go down to 15. I think it might just be time for a 3rd Wind Scout, as you mentioned. Which is pretty good, yeah? To the skies, pretty simple. ABC magic.
Yep. And Saul defaulting towards killing the 2nd morph. Many people often curve off with mediocre morph first, so it trades in combat, and then good morph second, so on the 5th turn they'll have 5 mana available to unmorph whatever their large morph is.
Manfield going to attack for 2 here. Malka looks like he's going to go down to 16. But Saul is certainly ahead in this race right now.
I'm sure Saul was a little disappointed last turn to only get a Canyon Lurkers out of that.
Oh. Psycho Archer, here to block the road. Malka will quickly untap. This would be a nice time for a card like Crippling Chill to be able to force through some more damage. Actually force through 9 points of damage, and that is a Crippling Chill.
Yeah.
That is timely. And he gets the cantrip too. Whew, good turn.
And this is 9 this turn plus theoretically 6 next turn. This is representing lethal.
That happens to be Xaxes, as they say. Now you do see Crippling Chill. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, so that Psycho Archer is going to be hanging out on D a little bit. And you do, of course, get to draw a card. Malka looks like he's going to play a morph as well. This is a beautiful game for Saul.
And missing on turn 2 as well. You know, it's not even like he was that explosive in terms of curve, but these Wind Scouts are doing a lot of work.
Yeah. Manfield draws his card for the turn. Swiftwater Cliffs is what he's found. That'll bring him from 6 to 7. So not lethal just yet, at least in the air. Don't know if Malka has a spell or not. And you see that's going to leave his morph back on defense. So Saul will untap. And it's time for him to take a draw. 1 card in hand.
And Seth does have a second Sagu Archers in his deck.
Okay.
Although that is not sufficient right now because of the morph that Saul played last turn.
There's a block on the morph. Little shoulder shrug action here. Seth have a spell to play. Or perhaps something to unmorph is the question. 5 mana. He does have a spell. It's a copy of Throttle. So the Wind Scout's going to bite the dust. Morphs? Morphs looks like they're going to trade. For Saul, it was a copy of Sidisi's pet, which I think he's considering maybe unmorphing. For Seth, it's a copy of Snowhorn Rider. So Manfield's going to go down to 3, and we'll see if Malka has a follow-up here. The answer is yes. It's a good follow-up too, mind you, in Sultai Scavenger.
Yeah, that's really important because it means now that the 1 Archer is not sufficient. Seth needs to generate another removal spell or another flyer or another blocker.
Yep. There's the Plains for Seth. 2 mana here. There's Parapet.
This does not have reach.
Does not. We know it has some archers on it. It does not have reach. You would think that thing could shoot stuff out of the sky.
Typically, archers are good against flyers. For example, Sagu Archers.
Gonna have to call the flavor judge on this one. Here come the flyers. There's your block. You have to imagine Seth has something here. 3 mana. Yep. There's a charm with a Sultai variety. That's going to take care of the Scavenger. So now Seth is at 1. There's Mardu's Skull Hunter. Trigger the discard. Of course, because Raid has been activated. See what Seth's going to discard here. There goes a Trail of Mystery.
Ooh, fancy.
That's a little late to the party.
Yeah, a little late.
Yeah. No interest in that. Pass the turn back. Can Saul deal the last point of damage to Manfield?
Yeah, Seth does have the board temporarily stabilized here.
Manfield just passed the turn back. Over to Malka. Malka will draw. Don't get a great look at it. Looked like it may have been a copy of Witness of the Ages. But nope, just a 4/5 flyer. But that's really good right now.
It puts a lot of pressure again on Seth. It's not just a creature he needs to find. He needs to find specific creatures or a removal spell.
Yeah, Riverwheel Aerialist was the draw. 4/5 flying prowess for 5 colorless and a blue mana. So maybe one of the better draws in Malka's deck.
A great way for Saul's deck to top off his curve. He's going to struggle to find power at the end of the game just because he's 2 colors. He can't go to the marquee gold cards. So a 4/5 flyer is definitely sufficient.
Here come the Flyers. Seth was hoping he wouldn't make the attack, but Malka did. And Saul Malka is going to win game number 1 here over Seth Manfield. Blue-black prowess. That is not a typo. Currently up a game here over 5 color for Manfield.
Pretty dramatic there for Saul to have enough power in his deck to just punch through Sagu Archers. It was there the whole time. And Saul was all in the air, never killed it, but was able to punch through lethal.
This 2-color approach that Malka's taking. Again, the 2-color approach I think that we expect to see most people take is just white-black for the Warriors. Potentially green-white as well. I know that's an archetype that can draft Warriors. And, you know, sometimes we'll see the white-black with a small splash of green for something like maybe an Abzan Charm. But blue-black prowess, I did not expect this.
And there's no synergy. There's no payout here. There's, you alluded to white-black. There's numerous powerful cards that mention Warriors. So even though it isn't a supported wedge, there's still a deck there. There's still some cohesion. Saul just has some good blue cards and some good black cards.
It's funny because it just feels like a straightforward, like kind of core set or just regular limited format deck. Not using any of the mechanics really. I mean, prowess he's using, that's because he has spells in his deck.
I like the didn't get the memo decks.
Yeah, me too.
Like when we had Naya in the sealed portion on camera day 1.
That's not a wedge.
Someone didn't read Mark Rosewater's articles, because you would have known what the sort of the thing that was going on in the set was supposed to be.
You're not supposed to be able to draft 2-color decks. What are you doing? What are you doing, Malka? Oh, you're winning.
Well, I could see 2-color decks happening within the Mardu colors, because there's a Warriors theme, and there's enough independently good and aggressive white cards, red cards, and black cards that if someone after their draft said, yeah, I just have a red-white deck with the good red and white cards in Mardu, I would say, okay, that's a little weird, but not too surprising. And it's nice to keep the mana discipline. To have one of the colors be blue is really surprising.
Yeah. The 5 Jeskai Wind Scouts. I do wonder where that card goes in drafts quite a bit. You know, a 2-1 flyer with prowess may not seem all that impressive on the surface, but flying is very powerful, it seems, in this limited format in general, both sealed and draft. And so going to the sky seems quite powerful.
Well, the thing is, if you're drafting the Sultai decks, something like a Wind Scout is pretty low impact. You're trying to play this control game. Maybe the Wind Scout's fine, it's 2-power flyer, but it's not going to be a especially high pick for you. For the Jeskai decks, it's very good, but if there's no Jeskai deck at your table and the Sultai decks are busy drafting other things, I could see something like this happening.
Well, that's currently what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what the story was in reverse, you know? And
I do wonder, you sit down at the table with this deck and you just kind of shrug your shoulders and you just say, well, this is what I got. And hopefully I'm right about this and it works. Because if you're wrong about the blue-black prowess deck, you can get crushed pretty badly. But so far, Malka did defeat Ari Lax last round. He's looking to defeat Seth Manfield this round with this unorthodox archetype in draft. I can dig it.
Yeah. It is cool to see stuff like this, I think a lot of people came in to this tournament feeling like what they were going to see are these wedge decks and 4 and 5 color decks would be what you were seeing in draft. And instead, we see there's still room for kind of doing your own thing here, as Sol is demonstrating.
See if Manfield can even things up here, of course. Seth, again, a 2-time Grand Prix champion. Gold level pro this year, I believe. Writes for TCG Player. Heck of a gamer. Wasn't able to win the first one, though. We'll see if he can get this one done.
I believe from the Maryland area, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I remember him from PTQs many years ago.
Yeah. Looks like he's going to keep. Malka's going to go down to 6 here. Very interesting draft format. Sealed is interesting in of itself, as we saw yesterday, but this draft format, I think, is very complex and interesting. Again, are you supposed to be a 2-color deck that's trying to be aggressive, maybe 2 splash a third? You're supposed to be just the full wedge, perhaps 4 or 5 colors like Seth is here. There are a lot of different routes that you can go. I think that's what makes this so very interesting.
I think the key to the format is flexibility. You need to be able to respond to what's going on in the draft because, if you try to go in every draft drafting 4 or 5 colors, and the mana fixing's not there, it's going to be a long day. And if you go in trying to force every aggressive deck, and you find yourself constantly passing all these very powerful gold cards trying to keep your mana intact, and you end up with these, 2-1s for 2 and 3-1s for 3 and no real power sort of decks, and you get outclassed all the time, that's going to be a challenge too. So I think the key is to try to remain as flexible as possible, so when Pack 2 and Pack 3 roll around, you're the one picking up the goods, whether it's your aggressive cards that no one else can take or all the powerful stuff in whatever wedge is open that your 4 or 5 color deck can facilitate.
See if Malka has found a better hand. Looks like he has. And it looks like we're about to be underway for game number 2, and we are. Good old Thornwood Falls is going to put Manfield up to 21. Of course, that is the blue-green dual land. Here's a Swamp and now a Despise here from Malka. So we'll get a good look at Manfield's hand. It does have a Ghost Fire Blade among the cards that are hiding out over there.
And a Knuckle Blade appears.
Well, there's some power in that deck.
Not a lot in the way of things that can be cast, unfortunately.
I'd say not too surprising to see him have some power in his deck. Now, one thing about Seth, if you've ever drafted with him before, man, not a fan of the mulligan.
Well, I think with decks like the one that Seth has, he's going to encounter this sort of thing. I think the fact that he has a morph he can play face down and an equipment that synergizes very nicely with the morph, plus at least one of his dual lands and 2 of his other colors means this is, even though this hand looks ugly once he gets despised, I think this is a fine keep.
Manfield will untap. Let's see what he draws this turn. Don't get a great look at it. There's a swamp, maybe a Despise of his own. I'll just play the blade.
This is a hand with some upside. Speculative.
Those old upside hands. Some of my favorites.
You know, if he gets
gonna pass back.
If he gets the blade plus a morph down, he's got some action going. While
Absolutely.
He waits for, this is not a mulligan hand, I think.
I like that card a lot. I'm a big fan of Ghostfire Blade. Here's a Plains. Pass the turn back. Swamp here from Malka. Unsurprisingly, a Jeskai Wind Scout, given that he has, again, 5 of those in his deck.
And I think another one in hand, too.
Swamp and just passing the turn back. Will Manfield. Malka will quickly untap and draw cards, copy of an island. He will play that as his 4th land. Here's an attack for 2. Manfield's down to 19. Perhaps it's time for another Wind Scout for Saul.
Why not?
Keep beating down the sky. He's just going to pass the turn back. All right.
And there's a disdainful stroke in Saul's list. I wonder if that's what he's holding up here.
A long shot archer. And there is the disdainful stroke. You called it.
And that's a great card for Soul, the disdainful stroke. Not only is that Seth's entire turn there, but reach is something that Soul cares about quite a bit.
Yeah. Malka with the ability to scavenge. So he will do that. Of course, delving away those 2 cards make that Sultai Scavenger cost 4 mana. So now he's got a 3/3 flyer and a 2/1 flyer out there. Manfield in a little bit of trouble here. Let's see what this is going to be. That's a morph. And he will equip that. So it'll be a 4/4. Malka going to untap. He's ahead on the board right now. Depends on what that morph is, though. Be a very scary card.
Especially if it's Sagu Archers and Seth can find a 5th land, he may be able to stabilize here, at least for the time being, because if Saul can't kill it, he's certainly not attacking through it.
Copy of Weave Fate. On the main phase, of course, will trigger the prowess. Now here's an attack for 6. Manfield's going to go down to 11. Malka did draw land here, so he will play the swamp. And looks like just simply pass the turn back. We fade an Inspiration Clone. A little bit more flavor for this set.
Although, I don't know, Inspiration I think is a totally fine card name for Jeskai.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you could have done it either way.
Yeah. Dismal Backwater. Going to gain a little bit of life. Here's the attack. It'll be for 4. So Malka's going to go down to 16. Just pass the turn back. Malka will untap again. 5 lands in play. 2 flyers out there. Sultai Scavenger a 3/3. Jeskai Wind Scout a 2/1 with the prowess keyword. See if Saul has more spells to cast here.
And Saul's passed up on casting his additional Wind Scouts now for a couple of turns here. He held up Disdainful Stroke 1 turn when he could have done it. He cast the Weave Fate a turn that he could have also cast 1. So just trying to, keep Seth off the board and maximize his mana efficiency with the Weave Fate.
Seems like he might be worried about a card like Death Frenzy. This is a way for him to hedge against that card. Again, Death Frenzy, 5 mana, gives everything -2/-2. And then the controller Death Frenzy, whenever a creature dies, they gain a life for that turn. However, Malka is just going to follow up his attack with a Bellowing Saddle Brute. The raid trigger means that he doesn't have to lose 4 life. Now he's got a 4/5 out there, which conveniently beats the 4/4 morph that's out there.
It makes him care a lot less if the face-down card is Sagu Archers, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Seth wants to eat a flyer, well, then the Saddle Brute's coming across for 4 points of damage.
Seth's going to attack with his 4/4. He's not scared. Perhaps this is Pine Walker? No, it's an Obzon Guide. Hello. Things have changed now.
It's a big swing here.
Yeah.
Pulls Seth up to 13.
So now the race is on. Let's make it 14. With the saltwater, the Swiftwater Cliffs. Jeez. This game has changed.
And this is the concern with trying to play too conservatively against removal. Things like this can happen.
Yep.
And a lot of Soul's aggression is caught in his hand right now, not on the board.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I think Malka's going to have to find his Crippling Chill. It plays a big role in this game.
Well, he's still making forward progress right now because he's attacking for 9 against Seth gaining 6. So he's not behind the lifelink currently. He can probably attack this turn, deploy his 2 other flyers, and go for the kill next turn. Though if Seth has some removal spells or one of the sweepers like Death Frenzy you mentioned, Sol probably can't catch back up.
See, Malka's trying to figure out the best way to go about attacking now. He's in a little bit of trouble. Obzon Guide has been very, very impressive this weekend.
I believe it's the best of the cycle.
I said a little bit earlier I thought it was Snowhorn Rider. I feel like I take that back now. I think that Obzon Guide is the best of the cycle. Lifelink just matters so much, and I feel like you do get into a decent amount of racing situations.
You can't go wrong with either of them, but I do feel like I generally value cards that are... The cards I like the most are cards that are powerful when you're winning and cards that are powerful when you're losing. And the Guide definitely qualifies, whereas the Rider, not great in every game you're losing.
2 more copies of Jeskai, Wind Scout, and pass the turn back. The race is certainly on here as Manfield will draw a card. He is under the gun, and I do not believe he has some sort of mass removal effect. You think of a card like a Dune Blast, Death Frenzy, and Hostilities. None of that stuff here for Seth.
Even something here like Savage Punch would be a huge swing in the damage race.
Yeah, you get
another
life.
lifelink trigger, yeah.
Get +2/+2 as well because of Monstrosity, or because of Ferocious, excuse me. It would be a huge card. You see Seth a little bit concerned with this game.
I believe there's no such card here in Seth's. There's no fight trigger, there's no sweeper. And even gaining 6 last turn and 6 this turn may not be enough. If his follow-up is just creatures, I don't think Seth can win. He's got to have something big. Arc Lightning would not be shabby right now, to say the least. 0 copies. 0 copies of that in Seth's list.
Arc Lightning's been really interesting in this format to me. It's not a card I've been very impressed with, but given the game that we are in right now, boy, it would be good.
Oh, Soulsex got a lot of X1s.
Yeah. Seth's tapping a whole bunch of mana here. Here's 5 of it. All right. Armament Core. Interesting. So he gets to distribute some counters here due to the core.
So if Sol has 1 spell here in his hand, he's attacking for 12. And Seth is currently gaining 8 and going to 13. And the Armament Core can chump block the Saddle Brute. So right now Seth can survive even 1 spell from Sol on the following turn, assuming that spell does not tap or kill the Armament Core.
Yep.
He cannot survive 2 spells.
What Seth does not want to see roll off is good old Crippling Chill, because that is it.
There appears to be a debilitating injury in Sol's hand, but that doesn't really change anything as it pertains to next turn.
Yep.
The Armament Core can survive a debilitating injury, can still chump block the Saddle Brute.
So it sounds like what Sol needs is a second spell.
Second spell or something that answers the Guide.
Malka will draw. Did not get a great look, but he is reaching for mana right now. Debilitating injury, trigger the prowess. Maybe another injury. Debilitating injury, trigger the prowess. That's going to kill that. This is a very, very large attack. I don't think there's anything you have to worry about for a single black mana in the format, and that is going to do it. Sol Malka is going to win this match over Seth Manfield, 2-0. And blue-black prowess is 2-0 in its pod and looking for a 3-0 as Malka moves on to 10-1.
Very impressive job there by Sol. Was able to survive a mulligan. Basically on that Despise, it rendered Seth's hand just too bad for too many turns.